I think royal duty is extremely important. I think it's part of the fabric of what the royal family and any future monarch has, and it's something that is very important, and I take duty very seriously.
He will get down on his knees and crawl about with them for hours, making funny noises and laughing. And my grandchildren adore him, absolutely adore him.
The feeling wasn't just surprise, it was more like being hit with a quiet storm. Something big had shifted, but no one was supposed to talk about it. Catherine and I were still on that emotional high after George, completely unaware that a behind-the-scenes decision was about to change everything. It wasn't announced with headlines or press releases, just a discreet directive passed quietly through the palace chain of command. But once whispers started to leak, the impact hit like thunder, especially for one person, Queen Camilla.
Camilla Parker Bowles, the Duchess of Cornwall, is widely known as the woman who married Prince Charles after having a scandalous affair with the royal while he was still married to Princess Diana. When the Duchess of Cornwall entered the scene, the public seemed to have conflicting opinions.
Insiders now confirm that Prince William has officially started pulling the royal privileges once extended to Camilla's family. These weren't small perks. They included ceremonial titles, quiet recognitions, and access that Camilla had carefully built for her children and grandkids over time. Though her family was never part of the succession, they had slowly carved out a visible space within royal life. And not everyone was happy about it, especially William and Kate. Now, that space is being quietly erased. This isn't just about etiquette or event seating. According to palace aides, it's part of what they call a royal realignment. William has reportedly instructed officials to strip the Parker Bowles family of all honorary involvement. No more invites, no special placement at state functions, and no further mention in internal royal paperwork. It's being framed as a return to tradition. But read between the lines, and there's a much colder message. Royalty belongs to bloodlines, not in-laws, and certainly not to their extended circles. So how did Camilla respond? Not well, not quietly, not at all. Sources claim she erupted, tears, shouting, anger turned personal. Staff were caught off guard. One person close to the scene overheard her cry, "I've spent years building this life, and now he's erasing it all." It wasn't just that her grandchildren wouldn't be part of royal events, it was that her influence, her legacy, was being cut off, even while she holds the title of Queen Consort. The timing made it all the more jarring. With Charles facing growing health concerns and William stepping into the spotlight more often,
Buckingham Palace has said King Charles spent a short period of time in hospital today after experiencing the temporary side effects of his cancer treatment.
This didn't feel like a temporary reshuffle. It looked like a glimpse into the future, a preview of the kind of monarchy William intends to lead, smaller, tighter, and above all free from personal entanglements. For Camilla, this wasn't a policy update. This was personal, and behind the palace walls, something deeper is unfolding. The quiet rise of a parallel family. Camilla's children never received formal recognition. No titles, no official duties. But what they did receive were subtle, powerful privileges. Palace insiders began referring to them, not by name, but simply as the Queen's family. And quietly, their names started appearing on event guest lists, ceremonial scripts, and even internal royal paperwork. It all started gently. A quiet mention here, a better seat there. But blink, and suddenly Camilla's relatives were being treated as if they belonged to the monarchy's inner circle. This didn't happen by force. It was a result of Camilla's calculated patience. She never pushed too hard or too fast. Instead, she wrapped her strategy in modern values, suggesting that a modern monarchy should embrace blended families. But her boldest move came during King Charles's coronation.
Now, the United Kingdom is bustling with excitement as the country is preparing for the coronation of King Charles III.
When three of her grandsons, Gus and Louis Lopes and Freddie Parker Bowles, were selected as pages of honor, eyebrows raised across royal quarters. Traditionally, these roles were reserved for boys born into noble or royal bloodlines. Camilla's decision sent a different message. Respect for her wasn't enough anymore. Her family, it seemed, had claimed their place. Behind the scenes, Camilla began quietly lobbying for more. Not formal titles necessarily, but but symbolic ones. She wanted her grandchildren to be acknowledged, not in the line of succession, but as part of the monarchy's legacy. What followed was a slow, steady campaign. Photographers were gently nudged to capture more moments featuring her grandchildren. PR teams were encouraged to drop their names into briefings. Bit by bit, a new image was forming. Some staff joked about it, nervously. It started feeling like two royal lines were emerging, the Windsors by blood and the Parkers by association. Not everyone found it amusing. Prince William became increasingly unsettled. Sources close to him revealed that even Charles grew wary, sensing Camilla might be pushing the boundaries too far. The idea of elevating non-royal children into the spotlight clashed with the careful balance the monarchy had always protected. William and Kate, known for favoring a simplified and purpose-driven royal family, were deeply uncomfortable. For them, this wasn't about appearances or protocol. It was about preserving what the crown stands for. Still, Camilla pressed on. She is said to have quietly lobbied for her grandchildren to be granted permanent ceremonial roles, honorary recognition, and even new residences on royal estates. But her proposals met a wall of silence, declined, delayed, or simply ignored. And while the official answer was always polite, something was shifting behind closed doors. Because while Camilla worked to quietly embed her family into the fabric of the monarchy, Prince William was preparing to pull the thread loose. What once seemed like harmless favoritism was now viewed as something else entirely, an informal attempt to reshape the palace from within. And the heir to the throne was no longer willing to stay quiet. For years, William had kept his concerns hidden. He played the dutiful son, smiled on balconies, and stood beside a royal family that, in his eyes, was slowly losing its definition. The lines between royal duty and personal affection had begun to blur.
Well, Prince William is wasting no time getting back to royal duty, as you've heard, rubbing shoulders with Hollywood's elite Tom Cruise at a charity event.
And behind the scenes, William was preparing a quiet revolution, one that would bring the monarchy back to its core. Those closest to him say it isn't about ego, it's about preservation. In his mind, the monarchy must be built on legitimacy, not sentiment. Love, as he reportedly told aides, does not rewrite lineage, and under his vision, only those born into the royal bloodline should carry its weight. No honorary roles, no ceremonial appearances for extended families, no exceptions. The guiding principle? Simplicity. No confusion about who serves and who simply attends. William has long tracked public opinion, studying the backlash over royal expenses, monitoring headlines when taxpayer funds support distant relatives with no constitutional duties. To him, the future lies in a model built on Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip's philosophy, a slimmed-down monarchy led by the sovereign, their direct heirs, and committed working royals. Nothing more. And now, William is beginning to act. First came internal changes, quiet adjustments to ceremonial protocols and rosters, removing those outside the direct line of succession. Then came the more visible moves, repositioning family appearances at public events, subtly reducing the presence of non-royal relations. And finally, in a move that sent shockwaves through palace corridors, the honorary privileges granted to Camilla's grandchildren were rescinded. This wasn't about personal offense, it was strategy. The public must understand who represents the crown, William is said to have told a senior aide. This family cannot afford blurred lines. To some, his approach feels cold, but to William, it's essential. In an age of constant scrutiny and digital criticism, the monarchy's identity must be clear, its roles unmistakable. And that means making difficult choices, ones his father has often chosen to sidestep. Because if Charles is the monarch of sentiment, William is fast becoming the monarch in waiting with structure in mind. Charles cherishes loyalty, maintains symbolic roles, and often avoids confrontation to preserve peace. But William sees another priority, protecting the crown from becoming an echo of itself. But William is unlike those before him. His leadership is defined by purpose, precision, and an unflinching resolve. And nowhere is that clearer than in his decision to block Camilla's family from reaping the privileges of her royal status. Despite her years wearing the crown, William draws a firm line. Camilla is the queen consort, not the matriarch of the monarchy. And her children and grandchildren. Private citizens, nothing more. This move isn't personal, it's structural. William's goal isn't to slight Camilla, but to reset a system that blurred the lines between family loyalty and royal duty. He isn't interested in sentimentality or palace politics. His ambition is to build something that lasts, a monarchy rooted in tradition, clarity, and public trust. But while it may have been calculated, the fallout was explosive. When Camilla learned of William's formal order, stripping her descendants of all honorary titles and ceremonial visibility, the reaction inside Clarence's house was instant and volcanic. The polished calm of royal life shattered as staff described a scene of disbelief and fury. Camilla reportedly demanded answers, shouting at aides, "Who authorized this? Fix it, now." Through tears, she allegedly cried, "How dare he do this to me? After everything I've sacrificed, after all I've done for this family, he erases mine?" There was no phone call, no private warning, just a curt administrative briefing delivered like any other bureaucratic update. To Camilla, it wasn't just a decision, it was a humiliation. Cold, clinical, intentional. Shaken, she reportedly cancelled appearances, refused meals, and retreated into silence. One courtier said she spent the day pacing and weeping, repeating the same words over and over. "He's trying to erase me." To those closest to her, the pain cut deeper than protocol. Camilla believed the move had less to do with royal reform and more to do with old ghosts. "This is Diana's revenge," she reportedly told a confidant. "He still can't let go, even now, even after everything I've done to prove I belong." Perhaps the most startling accusation. Behind closed doors, Camilla is said to have blamed Kate. Sources claim she believes the Princess of Wales silently supported, if not encouraged, the decision, describing her as smiling while twisting the knife. A once civil relationship between the two royal women has now turned bitterly cold. What was once polite distance has hardened into something far frostier. Lines drawn in royal sand. At a recent public appearance, Camilla's frost toward Kate was unmistakable. Eyes averted, words minimal, if spoken at all. Those watching closely saw more than royal decorum. They saw a message, silent but sharp. You let this happen. Even behind closed doors, the chill lingered. According to palace staff, Camilla's demeanor toward the Princess of Wales had shifted from courteous to cold. And the tension didn't stop there. For King Charles, the fallout has been deeply unsettling. Once the balancing force between his strong-willed wife and resolute son, he now finds himself caught in the storm. Insiders say he was visibly shaken by Camilla's reaction, her tears, her fury, her sense of betrayal. One aide recalled hearing her cry out, "Your son has humiliated me in front of the nation, and you're letting him." Charles didn't respond. Not immediately, and perhaps it was his silence, more than the order itself, that wounded Camilla the most. She expected him to step in, to defend her, to undo what had been done. But deep down, she knew what others were already whispering. William's grip on the monarchy is tightening, and Charles is quietly handing over the reins. To Camilla, this was not about ceremonial roles. It was about permanence, about legacy. For years, she fought to be accepted, not just as the king's wife, but as a rightful presence in the royal narrative. Now, with each quiet revocation, that hard-won place seems to be slipping away. One insider described it plainly. She thought she was becoming part of history, but William is writing a different story. And Charles, he's caught in the middle of what may be the defining conflict of his reign. A quiet but brutal tug-of-war between the Queen Consort and the future king. Unlike Queen Elizabeth II, who mastered stoic detachment, Charles has always led from the heart. Empathetic, gentle, and uncomfortable with confrontation, he now faces a decision he cannot avoid. Sources say the stress is visibly wearing on him.
I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow. Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother.
Emotionally drained and physically strained, he is pulled between loyalty to his wife and belief in his son's vision. William, for his part, has shown no signs of retreat. "We are not a royal family of in-laws and extras," he reportedly told his father in a private discussion. "We are the crown." And I won't let that line be blurred. Not for Camilla, not for anyone. The plea from Charles was earnest. Not to undo the decision, but to soften the blow. To deliver it quietly, discreetly, no press briefings, no administrative blasts. But William refused. This is about structure, he told his aides later. It's not personal. The monarchy only survives if it draws lines, especially in a family like ours. That line, however, now cuts straight through the palace walls. Feeling isolated and ignored, Camilla has begun pulling away. She's skipped key family planning meetings, delayed correspondence with royal advisors, and refused to meet or speak directly with William and Kate. The Queen Consort, once poised and public, now remains largely behind palace doors. Her trust in her inner circle fractured, and her role in the royal family, once secure, now cast in doubt. Here's a refined rewrite of this passage, keeping the tone and nuance, but polishing the flow and clarity. Behind closed doors, the Queen Consort interprets King Charles's silence as tacit approval of William's decision. "He let his son cut my family out, and he said nothing," she reportedly confided to a close friend. "I stood by him through decades of scandal. Now where is he?" Some courtiers quietly sympathize with Camilla. They acknowledge that while her grandchildren may not be royal by blood, they had become woven into the fabric of the royal story during Charles's reign. Others back William's move, viewing it as a necessary correction after years of soft favoritism and blurred boundaries. Yet regardless of allegiance, one fact is undeniable. The king's authority is no longer absolute. William is already acting like a king, a long-time advisor observed, and Charles knows it. He sees the writing on the palace walls, yet fears losing both son and wife. Caught between legacy and love, Charles faces a painful crossroads. Does he share Camilla's vision of a blended, inclusive royal family? Or does he side with William's mission to protect the purity of succession and uphold the crown's strength? For now, Charles remains silent. But in the royal household, silence rarely means peace. Insiders say it's only a matter of time before Charles must make a choice, queen or king in waiting. The directive is signed, protocol changes circulated. Just like that, Camilla's family's quiet privileges vanish from the royal archives. What began as whispered rumors of William's dissatisfaction has now become a sweeping reform of royal access. Palace insiders confirm that the Parker family name, once climbing the ranks of ceremonial inclusion, is being methodically erased from the monarchy's inner workings. The signs came quietly at first. Camilla's grandchildren, once prominent at King Charles III's coronation, were excluded from a forthcoming state banquet. No explanation was given. Then came the memo, a terse internal document sent to royal household departments, clarifying that non-lineal relatives of the Queen Consort would no longer receive ceremonial access, honorary roles, or mention in official state records. Simply put, Camilla's children and grandchildren were cut off. No royal box seats, no pages of honor, no press mentions, no future titles or symbolic honors. The palace's message was unmistakable. You were never truly royal, and now the world will see it. Senior officials say Prince William personally oversaw the process, demanding professionalism but firmness. "This isn't about revenge," he told palace staff. "It's about restoration. We owe it to the crown, not to the court of emotion." The order extended beyond ceremony. Security clearances for Camilla's grandchildren were rolled back to standard private citizen levels. Invitations to royal charity galas and public events were quietly rescinded, with event organizers instructed to forward all inquiries to palace communications. Even more telling was a subtle change on the official royal website. A small but significant detail to most, but a glaring omission to royal watchers. The Queen's family tab was removed. Camilla's bloodline no longer appeared in current or upcoming event listings, only in historical biographies. One insider described it as a digital disappearing act, surgical, cold, and effective. The atmosphere inside Clarence House grew grim and frosty. Camilla, who had expected her family to be recognized for their steadfast support during turbulent times, now felt deceived, erased, and ignored. Sources reveal she has been consulting with longtime advisors, grappling with the harsh reality of this royal rebuke. The pain of exclusion runs deep. For Camilla, it is more than a loss of ceremony or status. It strikes at the heart of her place within the monarchy and her legacy. Behind the polished facade of royal protocol, this quiet war exposes the fragile balancing act that defines the modern monarchy. It's a house divided, not by public scandal, but by competing visions of what the royal family should be. Camilla's vision has always been one of inclusion and unity. She wanted to weave her family into the tapestry of royalty, not as outsiders, but as permanent threads. Her decades-long journey from a private individual to queen consort was built on hopes of acceptance, not just for herself, but for her children and grandchildren. But William's mission is clear: to tighten the reins on royal tradition and preserve the purity of succession. He believes that the monarchy's survival depends on clear boundaries and unquestioned hierarchy. This is the defining conflict of King Charles III's reign, one that places him at the epicenter of a struggle between past and future, family and institution. For Charles, this is not a matter of personal desire, but duty. His role as monarch demands that he navigate these turbulent waters carefully. Yet his hesitation has been interpreted by many as weakness or indecision. Some palace insiders whisper that Charles fears that choosing a side might irrevocably fracture the family he has spent a lifetime trying to hold together. But others argue that his silence is a sign of a king caught in the crossfire, emotionally torn between loyalty to his wife and allegiance to his heir. Meanwhile, William's consolidation of power sends a message not only to the family, but to the nation and the Commonwealth. The monarchy is evolving, and the old ways must give way to a new order. The reforms extend beyond ceremonial roles and titles. They are shaping the very identity of the royal family. By drawing hard lines around who qualifies as royal, William aims to streamline the monarchy, making it more efficient and arguably more relevant in the 21st century. However, this drive for clarity comes with significant costs. It risks alienating those who have stood quietly in the wings, supporting the family through decades of upheaval. And it brings into sharp relief the emotional toll borne by those caught in the shifting tides of royal power. As Camilla retreats from public life, skipping strategy meetings and avoiding contact with William and Kate, the palace feels the weight of an unspoken crisis. The queen consort, once seen as a unifying figure, now appears isolated and embattled. Observers note that this is a critical moment for Charles and his family. How he resolves this rift will shape not only the future of his reign, but the legacy he leaves behind. Will he side with his son's vision of a leaner, more traditional monarchy? Or will he fight to maintain the blended family dynamic he and Camilla have cultivated? The answer remains uncertain, but what is clear is that the monarchy is no longer simply a symbol of continuity. It is a living institution undergoing profound transformation, with all the pain and promise that entails. In the end, the royal family's struggle mirrors the challenges faced by many modern institutions. Balancing tradition with change, personal loyalty with public duty, and private grief with public image. As the world watches, King Charles III stands at a crossroads. His decisions in the coming months will resonate far beyond the gilded halls of Clarence House, influencing how the monarchy is perceived and how it endures in a rapidly changing world. For Camilla, William, and Charles, the road ahead is fraught with difficult choices and emotional reckonings. But one thing remains certain: the monarchy's story is still being written, page by painful page. And as history unfolds, only time will tell who will emerge stronger, who will be sidelined, and who will shape the future of one of the world's oldest and most scrutinized institutions. If you have liked the video, subscribe the channel to enjoy more interesting content.